So my overarching area of research interest is everyday sexism in education, which broadly covers themes of gender inequality in education. And we look at kind of gender inequality in different forms, as well as different stages of education and different contexts of education. So thinking about gender inequality as it manifests right from sort of early years through to higher education and beyond. The three main research projects or research themes that I'm working on at the minute. One is around gender violence in young people, so young people's experiences of relationship violence, but also their understandings of whether gender violence is acceptable or not, and thinking about what factors influence their acceptability. Then secondly, I'm looking at sexuality and gender in sex and relationships education, and the extent to which sex and relationships education actually covers information about gender identities, sexual identities, and how that impacts the absence of that potentially impacts on young people's understandings of relationships. And then thirdly, the most recent area of interest I've been looking at is, or area of research I've been looking at is lad culture in higher education, which is a fairly poorly defined concept, but which we're characterising as experiences of sexual harassment, abuse and violence aimed at students. And that can be male students, female students. We don't kind of limit the target population of the group to whom this applies. But existing research suggests that it impacts on women students more than men students. So that is a particular area of kind of interest in that particular research programme. One of the things that kind of, I suppose, binds together all the research programmes that I do is this underpinning analysis around how gender shapes not only our values and our attitudes, but also our practices in the world around us, and particularly in education. So not only how does it impact on students' behaviour in education, but also how does it impact on teachers' values and practices in education. I have a key focus, I would argue, in my research around harassment and abuse. So that's within each of these research projects, that's the key thing that I'm looking at. And the reason that I think that it's important to have this key focus is because I take a developmental understanding of the way in which gender inequality arises over the educational life course. So currently, there's a lot of focus on how to prevent lad culture in higher education. And I'm arguing that I don't think we can understand that without looking further back in the educational life course to think about how these values and behaviours develop in primary and through secondary education as well. I think it's a research area that has potentially huge impact for policy and practice, as evidenced by recent initiatives such as the government's inquiry into sexual harassment in schools.